Stance cars as we know them, with their giant wheels, ridiculous offsets, outrageous fitment, crazy camber assortments of wide body pieces, and overall friggin' uselessness have really taken things to the next level in the last few years. It really is a trend that takes race-inspired modifications and turns it up to friggin' 300 in the name of all-out excess. And that's kind of the name of the game, right? Taking things too far in the name of excess has been around in the custom car scene since the 1930s. And I think a bunch of you guys out there hating on the modern iteration of stance cars are just a bunch of hypocrites. Because if you ever modified your car at any time, chances are you did something that brought you closer to some generation's version of stance. But what the hell does that even mean? What did other generations do to upset normies in the name of excess? And how does it relate to parking lots full of absurdly slammed and nearly undrivable cars at the modern car show? And did I actually just call a bunch of you guys hypocrites? Well, yes, I did. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Today, we're going to go over the evolution of stanced cars. But before we jump in head first, we got to hit you with the plug. If you're enjoying the content, subscribe, because our team works extremely hard to bring you guys daily content. Give the video a thumbs up. It helps us get in front of a bunch of other car enthusiasts just like yourself. And if you ever need anything, wheels, tires, or suspension, come see your boy or at fitmentindustries.com, because we have over 1 million different wheel and tire packages, ceramic coating, plus accessories and merch. And if you package them together, we're going to mount, balance, and ship them to you for free. If you like oddball cars and want to see some behind the scenes action here at Fitment Industries, go ahead and give me a follow over on Instagram at seanb.fi. Let's get started. Modifying cars in the name of excess has been around since the cars of the 1930s. People were literally using lead to fill and smooth holes when they deleted door handles and trims, as well as smoothing out hood size and molding body pieces to the body itself for that increasingly smooth and molded look. This is also where you really started to see people cutting off their roofs, chopping out some of the height, and then putting them back on for that chop top, which is probably the most aggressive looking modification of all time. Again, using lead as a source of body filler and bonding agent. A lot of times the roof lines would even be sloped back more in the rear to give the car a lower looking stance in the rear. Some guys were even channeling the underside of the body of the car to have it sit lower on the frame. The formula was simple: slam it to the ground, shave everything, fill it up with lead, and then thus the term lead sled was born. Come post-World War II, people were taking this stuff to the next level. Tail draggers were literally so low that they would scrape the road and throw sparks all over the place. Sound familiar? You even start to see some sharp spiked objects on the hubcaps and seeing people swap around parts from other vehicles to really change that look into something that's unique. Painting their cars in bright, flashy colors and splitting body lines with a matching or contrasting color with huge chrome pieces all over the place like it was some sort of fancy accessory, which at that time it was. Then moving into the 50s and 60s, cars were getting increasingly lower all around. Accessories were getting wild, and custom paint was exactly the kind of thing people did to take their modified cars over the top to get the most attention possible. Panel paint jobs were extremely popular at the time. People were using the design elements to make cars look even longer and lower than they actually were. This style is what really kind of turned into the lowrider scene. And it's kind of this lowrider scene where camber made its first appearance as an aesthetic. And with the huge drag racing boom, you started seeing people do all kinds of random stuff to mimic other race cars, but on their street cars. It was pretty popular to see the front ends of cars lifted up at the drag strip. The whole idea of this was to put more weight over the back end of the car to get better traction off the line with that weight transfer. This new gasser look became synonymous with performance, and it wasn't long until street cars were setting their noses up in the air to get that mean drag car look, even though it was pretty well entirely pointless on the street. Anyway, moving into the 60s and getting into the 70s, you start to see funny car racing become extremely popular. And here, the cars had huge rear tires, large wheels with smaller diameter, skinny wheels, and tires on the front. You had a pretty raked look because of that, and a lot of times the rear had to even have a taller ride height to fit a bigger wheel and tire package on it. During the same time, the factory-built muscle car was cruising at full speed, which a lot of these funny car bodies were actually based off of. So it's no wonder you saw this adapted by the owners of performance-oriented cars of the era. And it was fairly easy to achieve too. Just toss in some air shocks on the rear axle, inflate them up until you get a massively oversized wheel and tire combo on there, and slap some pizza cutters on the front. You have yourself a look-alike drag car. It also brought in a whole new level of accessorizing things like chrome differential covers, bright colored suspension and fuel system, making things flashy that are otherwise kind of unseen on mostly stock vehicles. Moving through the 70s and into the 80s, JDM car culture started rearing its head and influencing car culture around the world. Everything from your VIP style, Yankee style, Shakotan style cars, all often referred to as kind of the Bozozoku, drew a ton of attention with its crazy styling and became adopted by enthusiasts all around the world. I'm sure you've all seen the photos of older 70s and 80s American cars with these weird, crazy fiberglass wide body kits with fake scoops and overall just wild styling, along with added flares and stretch tires to mimic what we kind of now call a fender to lip fitment. That is all 100% derived from the JDM culture. And that is what we would have considered stanced at that time. Coming out of the 80s and getting into the 90s and even the early 2000s, we really started to see the bolt-on body kit craze come into life. Instead of really lowering the vehicles a ton, a lot of guys were just adding body kits to make the car's body pieces closer to the ground. And these pieces grew increasingly more aggressive as time went on. We're talking about straight up Need for Speed Underground. The biggest, scoopiest, craziest pieces were the ones of choice and that got the most attention. This stuff was still very much inspired by the Bozozoku style trends that were blowing up in the 70s and the 80s, just with a little bit kind of more of a modern twist. Then as we moved into the 2010s, the wide body kit started taking over the frickin' world. If you didn't have a wide body build going on, your new YouTube channel wouldn't become successful, and you certainly would not build yourself a social media following. Alongside that really came the big fender to lip fitment era, utilizing expensive and rare multi-piece wheels. The evolution of this as we come into 2020 and beyond seems to be all about the crazy camber builds. Taking a wide body car and tossing on these insanely wide wheels with tires stretched to the point where they barely seat on the wheel, and introduce so much camber that the fender sits on the exposed part of the wheel between the outer rim and the actual bead seat. It's so wild and is completely absurd, but if you deny the amount of work that goes into making something like this happen, then you really don't appreciate custom work as much as you may think you do. And I would challenge you to find the positivity through this style of modifying your car, because at the end of the day, why are we modifying cars at all? It's all about making something yours. Your car, as a car enthusiast, is pretty well an all-out piece of art in the sense that what you chose as your baseline and what you choose to do with it is an extension of you and how you express yourself, even if that means you're rocking a completely stock car that you've worked your ass off for. So before you mutter something under your breath in distaste at stance and wonder where the hell the real car people are, look around you and realize that throughout history, modifying cars in the name of excess has been with us over multiple generations and is going to continue to grow and change. And I would argue that people who push the limits are as real as car enthusiasts gets, even if it's not within your taste. So what do you guys think is next? What's the next trend moving forward? We actually made a video about it. It's called Car Trends Coming in 2021. So go ahead and go check that out. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all the crazy content coming up. And actually, we're launching a full build series on Dell's RX-8 where we're trying to learn how to install a wide body kit and all kinds of other crazy stuff. And if you need anything wheels, tires, or suspension, come see the experts over at fitmentindustries.com, and we'll get you guys hooked up with that free mount, free balance, free shipping with any wheel and tire package. I'm Sean, SeanB.fi on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching.